Throughout his nearly 50 years on the screen, Liam Neeson has established himself as one of cinema's most commanding and versatile performers. From the raw intensity of Oscar Schindler in Schindler's List to the hard-hitting resolve of Bryan Mills in the Taken franchise and the mythic wisdom of Qui-Gon Jinn in Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, Neeson has embodied characters that span history, action, fantasy, and drama. And now, in a surprising twist, Neeson steps into the shoes of Detective Frank Drebin in the reboot of The Naked Gun. But Neeson's influence extends far beyond the silver screen. Off camera, he's devoted himself to humanitarian causes, serving as a longtime UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador and advocating for children's rights and access to education in conflict zones and impoverished communities. Whether it's supporting the fight against HIV/AIDS or raising awareness of displaced refugee children, Neeson has consistently used his platform to shine a light on some of the world's most urgent crises. Newsweek sat down with this incredible newsmaker to dive into his work, both on and off screen. So I'd love to talk a little bit about your work as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador. You've traveled throughout Africa and the Middle East, meeting children, advocating. What is it like to see these challenges firsthand?
Well, it does and is still giving me. I wish I'd put in more field trips, you know? It just gives me a chance to use whatever celebrity status I have to shine a light, some sort of a light on the poverty, the HIV transmission from mothers to kids, you name it, you know, starvation. Planning another one in September. I think South Sudan we might be going to, or Ethiopia. It's yet to be decided, you know. I take it very seriously. I find it deeply humbling, especially meeting mothers that have walked maybe 3 days who've got HIV to tell their story to a camera, you know, to me, to UNICEF, you know. It's very, very, very important, you know. And I take it very seriously. I wish I had done more field trips, but I will continue to do so, hopefully.
What would you like people to know about the children that you have met through UNICEF?
They all need help, especially now. And we have a government in power at the minute that just seems to want to hit on them from a great height, which is morally disgusting. And we're all concerned with that, you know. US aid, deeply, deeply concerning. You know.
Do you have hope, you know, with the cuts to US aid, do you have hope that charities like UNICEF can continue to sort of fill the gap there and serve these children?
Yeah, but they need money, you know. It does always come down to dollars, you know. And for research, certainly with AIDS and various diseases and stuff, you know, it needs money. It needs research, constant research, you know.
I'm honoured to be here for the Ambassadors for Humanity Gala. Stephen, my old pal, thank you for inviting me, and I'm delighted and humbled to have this opportunity to support you and the magnificent work of the USC Shoah Foundation on its 20th anniversary.
Tell me about your the moment that you decided to take this leap into the comedy genre.
It was a phone call from Seth MacFarlane about 4 years ago. I knew Seth. I'd worked with him on a picture. He directed 9, 10 years ago, and he called me and proposed, this reboot that the studio was thinking of Naked Gun. And would I be Frank Drebin Jr.? I said, yeah, of course I'd be open to that. And I know Seth's wicked sense of humor, not least from Family Guy and stuff, so I thought, okay, this is going to could be interesting, and it's certainly going to be a good script. And it was, when I eventually got one. It got better, as they worked on it. I had tiny little apprehensions. I didn't go back and watch Mr. Nielsen's. I remembered them, but I didn't want to emulate Leslie at all. Just the only note I gave to myself every day we were shooting it was to be dead serious, not try to be funny.
Is he serious?
No.
That would not work,
Someone murdered my brother.
Please, take a chair.
Thank you.
You said you were madly in love with Pamela Anderson's work on this film. What surprised you most about her as a scene partner?
There was no surprise. I'd never met Pamela before. She was just, she was very present as a human being and as an actress. She was playing a femme fatale, but she had her own persona around it, which is very sweet and tender, touching, I find, and I could sense we had a chemistry. I didn't want to analyze it, embellish it, just knew that it was there and just allow it to grow,
Your Oscar-nominated performance of Oscar's Schindler remains your most acclaimed dramatic work. Looking back 30 years later, how did that role shape your understanding of what acting could accomplish?
Well, it was a very special, unique film for lots of reasons. Stephen, all of us set out to make a little black and white film about this horrendous period of history, Stephen's telling a story about his people. And of course, you cannot tell a story about the Holocaust, but you can tell little aspects of that horror. So we were all, when we finished the film, when we shot it in Poland, and sometimes in the very places where these events happened, certainly with Schindler, we were all kind of surprised that it seemed to prick something in all of us audiences that kind of took us by surprise, And I remember it was before all the Academy Award votes have to be in. I don't know, the day before Christmas or something. I remember Stephen telling me, Ben Kingsley, that, we're not sending out VHS copies. People have to see it in the cinema. And then lo and behold, it got 12, 13 nominations, It's like, oh my gosh, people are going out to see this, But I thought Stephen did make a profoundly touching film. Very, very profound. Yeah, very unique experience on so many levels.
What are your memories from Star Wars: The Phantom Menace? At the time, there was mixed criticism about rebooting the franchise. Were you concerned?
No, I wasn't concerned, even though I was in the theater in Belfast when the first movie came out, 76, 75, 76. And being in a cinema packed, all age groups. Saracen cars going up and down Belfast in those days was a bad place. But this, being taken into this fantasy world of spaceships and characters that George Lucas created, I thought, wow, this is a special film. And it tapped into myth stories that every culture has, you know, which is essentially an innocent going out into the world to conquer and being hurt, but learning something and coming back to his tribe or her tribe to pass on this information. That's the story of every myth story in every culture all over the world, you know. So it was very, very clever what Lucas did, you know. Okay, R1, The Phantom Menace. My immediate memory is pulling a lightsaber, which then was just a handle, you know. Ewan McGregor and I both going, cut! We'll add the sound effects in later. You don't have to do that. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, you know, I did that a few times.
You have discussed possibly retiring from the acting genre. Is that true?
From the action genre?
Excuse me, the action genre.
Yeah, because I'm 73, you know, and audiences are smart. You know, I don't want my stunt double to be doing all my fight scenes and stuff, and it's obvious it's not me, you know. That's insulting to an audience. I don't know. I keep reasonably fit. I'm not in the gym 3 hours every day, you know. I might have one left, you know. And we'll see after that, you know. But no, I think it's enough. We did the first Taken film. We shot it 18 years ago. So, you know, time marches on, you know. I'll get you, you pesky Albanian. Where's my steak? You know, that's maybe pushing it a bit.
If The Naked Gun succeeds, it could launch another phase of your career. Are you prepared for that possibility, or is this sort of a one-time only comedy experiment?
I think it's a one-time only.
Why do you say that?
I think it's a one-off, yeah, and if it succeeds, good. I mean, it's, you know, I think the film is going to have a few giggles and a few laughs in it, and God, we all need that at the minute, I think, you know. I think it's probably a one-off for me, I think. Not that the experience wasn't great, it was terrific. Working with Pamela, Danny Houston, all these terrific guys. But yeah, I think so. Yeah. Anyway, I'm committed to doing Taken 4 to 7, you know. Zimmer frame.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. It's wonderful to speak to you.
You too.
And congratulations on the film.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Have you ever done